Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to Lunch Club. Today we're going to be working on this. I did this 2 days ago with Pan, or I worked on part of it, and I'm going to keep working on it. But before that, I kind of added a few new colors to my gouache palette, and I just wanted to take a second to check it out. Oh, I need to move this closer. Sorry, I'm still adjusting to my new microphone and setup. How's everyone doing? I hope you're doing well. If you haven't been to Lunch Club before, welcome. My name is Lindsay Stripling. I host Lunch Club over on my Instagram at Lindsay Victoria Lee, which you can find in the show notes. And I started doing the Paint With Me days here before the new year, and we're bringing it back, especially now that I have a new microphone and you can hear me better. So Lunch Club started at the beginning of quarantine, and it was just really a way for us to hang out together. Like, we're at a big project table. And a lot of the people who join regularly, we've all kind of become buds. So if you can definitely use the chat and say hi to each other and whatever, share your thoughts about things, ask questions, whatever you got. I'm here for it. Got a scrunchie on. Ditch that. All right. So this is like my little gouache palette, and I added some Opera Rose to it, which I don't know if you can see that. Winsor Newton, which I haven't really used, but I've been enjoying adding pink, as you can see, to things. Pink has been like a big part of my palette with red. I like that combination. So I thought I would try out this Opera Rose, which is pretty vibrant. It's actually a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I thought I would give it a shot. I added some white and a few other things to it to make it a little less intense. But what's everyone else working on? Let me know. I'd love to hear what you're up to. I kind of shared a little bit of how I am mixing these palettes, but I learned from Danielle Bennett, who is an incredible illustrator, and just like kind of looking through how other people are doing gouache palettes. For a long time, I would just put them like up here and they get a little crumbly, but I'm excited to kind of make it so that it feels a little bit more like my watercolor palette, which is how I'm familiar with using it. For a long time, I used to use egg crates when I would use gouache, because it would be like more like a big like petal of color for me to pull from. I wonder, is the chat not working? Oh, there you are. The clarity is a little less, but we can see for sure. Do you want me to zoom in? Let's see. Is that better? Let me know. Most people who've joined have told me that it's a lot better than Instagram, but happy to figure out if there's ways for me to make it better. Hi, Claudia. How's it going? It should be a little sharper because I'm using a different camera. The camera phone doesn't really have a ton of clarity, but you tell me. I'm not the one viewing it. I can see it super clearly either way. Zoomed in is nice, though. Oh, great. Good to know. Sometimes it depends on people's internet connection, too. I'm excited to explore this palette a little bit. I made it with like all my favorite colors, but then I haven't really... Oh, good. I'm glad you can see better. I haven't explored this palette really, like as far as like putting them all down. I like that. It's been a wild 3 days. Claudia, you're so busy. I bet it's been a wild 3 days. Oh, I wonder if I just didn't focus properly in the beginning. That could absolutely be true. Lucy just went to the vet. Dave just got back with her and she got her staples out, which is so exciting. I was just thinking about how, like, when she had her surgery a couple weeks ago, it's only been 2 weeks ago. It feels like forever. And she walked out of the surgery and we both were just like so shocked, and she seemed so out of it. And now she seems so healthy and good. I was like, man, time's wild. Excited to be here, but stopping in a few minutes late. Is this gouache or watercolor or both that you're working with right now? Hi, Stacy. Glad you're here. It's gouache. So I created a watercolor setup for my gouache because I've worked with watercolor for so long. And when I used to use gouache, I would just mix it straight from the tube into like a ceramic egg crate. But I never had like this type of setup, and I'm so used to this now. It's nice to work this way. So this is I use some honey and I mix it in with my mixed colors. So most of these are not pure, like straight from the tube, but they're instead like mixed up. Like I'll spend some time mixing them. So I still use like a very limited number of colors to make my secondary and tertiary colors, which I think helps make it or keep it cohesive. North and Crown says, love the palette so much. I'm such a fan of opera, but whenever I put it on my paintbrush, I'm clueless about what to do with it. So it does. So it plays nicely with everything else. Yeah, I think I typically shy away from pinks like that. My chair's squeaking. It's annoying me. I typically shy away from pinks like this, but I don't know. I've kind of been really enjoying them. This is like a lighter pink. These are maybe my I mix them a little bit, but closer to just straight from the tube. But I like them in combination, like with this green and with the red, which is why I have this out so I could see it. I just started a new palette with gouache too. I'm liking it, but worry that I have to use too much water to refresh it. I will try the honey method. Yeah, I had not used honey before. And then I saw Danielle Bennett's post, which you should definitely check out her Instagram. She's lovely about it. And it's so fun how people resource share stuff like that. Like I think it's cool how people they're not like secretive about some of those things, but I've used gouache for 10 years and never knew you could mix honey in it. I would have thought that it would affect like how velvety it is or like the matte quality, but so far it seems actually to not affect that at all. So that's kind of neat. Let's see. Oh, I want to do this one. This is a new green that I mixed up with my Patreon people the other day. I wanted like a really bright kind of minty green, and I like this one. I made salad for lunch today and it was truly disappointing. I just was coming off having that salad and thinking like, dinner's got to be better than that. Let's see. I haven't been using this blue too much, but I do like it as like an accent color. Oh, that was the thing I was going to tell you. North and Crown is that sometimes with colors like that, I'll use them as an accent color initially to just see if I like the way it feels. So rather, I would say this green is a main color in this painting. This pink is a main color in this painting. And then like the red is more of an accent. So thinking about it in that way, like maybe it doesn't have to play a starring role in the palette. You can get comfortable with it and see how you like it. If I'm you, I have music on, but I'm not you, so you should throw some music on. Anyone listening to any good albums? I get a little overwhelmed when I go onto Spotify, and so sometimes I just choose playlists, which is a little lame, but sometimes choosing a vibe is too hard. Cool. Well, I feel like I like that pink in combination. The other thing you can do sometimes is like cover it up as a means of seeing if it's working without it. I mean, I think it works without it, but I'm going to use it as an accent color in my next painting. And I think it'll be pretty good. I'm doing a large one with a lot of like more mustardy greens and yellows. And I think that pink will be nice. So I'm going to set this to the side. We'll come in here. Oh, the lovely little playlist. I'm going to check that out, Claudia. Any playlist tips I will accept. I am like, I don't know. Sometimes choosing I usually choose an album and just stick with that album the whole time. But I don't know. Recently that's been really hard. I've been feeling indecisive, I guess. Not sure what that's about. All right. I've been really struggling with this moon. I think I have to do it in a totally different color. I need to do it in this like really light yellow, I think. Okay. Lucy hair. I'll let that dry. I think the problem is I tried to use like a lavender type color because I wasn't really feeling the yellow, but I think I just got to go yellow. The lavender was blending in too much with the background. You live and you learn. This is the final week of Yellow Brick Road, which makes me think of I'm trying to think of like this time around, we've done some like visualization work, which has been really cool. And I'm trying to think of like which ways the class has changed, or remind myself of like how the class has stayed the same, but also evolved every time I've taught it. And it's been really fun to think about what I went into the class with, like the expectations I went into it with, and then how it's like grown and become something that I don't think I could have anticipated, which is pretty cool. All right, that moon is good. I'm gonna do that trim. White. But anyway, back to the class. I'm making another worksheet. Like each time I teach it, I find like there's certain, and this is true for like all of the workshops I teach. I feel like it's a practice. You get used to like anticipating certain questions, and then sometimes you teach a class and you didn't anticipate certain questions, and so you try to adjust how you present the information to kind of handle that. And so it's been fun kind of figuring out how people are being challenged by the work. And sometimes that's defined by different groups of people. Like when groups of people take a class together, this is such a community-oriented class that, you know, almost like as a hive, we like start asking like certain questions as a group. And it's definitely determined by everyone's experience. Luckily, I feel like we're lucky enough to have each time I've taught the class, so many different types of people with different life experiences in the class, which is neat. But I'm writing a worksheet right now adjusting a worksheet right now on how to have a sustainable practice, which is a large part of the class. And it's been really interesting to like pose those questions and try to come up with ways to like kind of like motivate people to think about sustainability within practice, which has always been a really hard thing for me. I've always been a bit of an all or nothing thinker. And I think a lot of that comes from, playing sports most of my life and swimming. It's like practice means you show up every day, and adjusting like what practice means or what showing up even means to be something that you can actually do sustainably has been, I think, a large part of my 20s and 30s, figuring out that, okay, well, if I say I have to show up every day, I'm just not going to show up is the problem. Let's see. I'm going to make sure we're focused. So it's been interesting to kind of revisit those thoughts and feelings around like my all or nothing tendencies. And it shows up in other areas of my life, but definitely like after swimming since I was really little through college, it took me a really long time to show up for swimming in a sustainable way. Now I'm not swimming because of COVID, but yeah, it's been an interesting revisiting of how to show up sustainably. I was talking about, has anyone read Swimming Studies by Leon Shapton? It's one of my favorite books. I've read it twice, and I think I'm probably going to read it again soon, just because it lines up with a lot of these thoughts. But she talks about like the whole thing is about like, I think it's about practice. It's about showing up. It's about letting go of perfection and like a lot of different themes. But one of the things that I thought about a lot after I read it the last time was showing up sustainably. And she was a Olympic swimmer in Canada, I believe. And, after swimming in the Olympics, I think she was really young, like in her teenage years. When she decided she was no longer going to swim anymore for a lot of different reasons that she goes into in the book, she started showing up to lap swim. And lap swimming is like so different than when you're on a team, because it's so much of like when you're on a team is you're playing off of like a little bit of like everyone is doing this thing, so we all have to do it. There's a little bit of like a lot of bit of accountability, right? But when you show up on your own, it's so easy to be like, I am not in the mood today, or this other thing takes priority. I don't need to show up to the pool because I'm the only person who's going to be upset about it. And I think that is a really hard thing to kind of figure out, how to keep those promises to yourself. Anyway, I love that book and I love that conversation. And I think it's like such a multifaceted one, Benjamin says, do you have other media that you work in? I find I'm always jumping from outlet to outlet, learning to accept that as my practice. Yeah. I mean, Benjamin, I think everyone works differently. So, maybe for you work best when you're working on multiple things at once, or in different ways, depending on the project. And I think that is totally fine. And that's a personal, it just takes a little bit of reflection sometimes, I think, to ensure that you're not jumping from media to media because you're avoiding sticking with something for a while, but actually that the practice calls for that. And that's, no one can tell you if that's true or not. That's your own thing. I have used other things, like I've used clay. I'm doing like clay right now, but it's really just for me as a means of pushing my painting practice or allowing myself a break from my painting practice. It doesn't work when I view it as like something I have to do productively. So for me, having something that I can create and work on unproductively is really helpful. I'm really bad working three-dimensionally, and I'm really bad working with clay. Bad is not the right word, but I'm not skilled at it. So when I work that way, it feels very low pressure, and like I can actually make breakthroughs on other stuff, and I can just have fun and make ugly things, and no one has to see it, and I don't have to share it with anyone. But that's probably mostly how I switch media. I'm adding little, we'll see if these show up after they dry. Let's see. Hi, Arati. Arati says, so nice to catch you live, Lindsay. Still working on the things you taught in the Your Hand is Not a Camera class. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad. That's such a fun class. I love that class so much. I was just talking with another class. I'm teaching this Draw Your Way class. And one of the things that I'm trying to figure out how to communicate, so I'll just kind of word vomit at you, is about like seeing the way that a lot of times we trust the way objects operate within space because we've seen them so many times. So I've been thinking a lot about like, how it is that we trust that a chair is supposed to like be behaving within space. Like we know what it looks like, and a lot of times our eyes finish the job for us. And I want to figure out a way to talk about how we can do that in drawing. Um, I feel like I need to do a little research. There's probably someone who's written about it that I'm just like blanking out because it's been a long time. Sonia says, hello from Paris. I'm binge watching your videos while working on some book covers I need to send out. Oh, great. Hi, Sonia. All of my IGTV ones, like all the lunch clubs on IGTV, that's awesome. Sometimes I wonder, I leave them up there so that people can do that, but I have yet to hear from people if they like that or if they do that. So I'm glad. One of my favorite podcasts is Baby Geniuses with Lisa Hannawalt and Emily Heller. And they were talking, or someone had written in and they were like listening to all their past episodes from like 2016. And and Emily Heller was like, I just want to apologize for like anything I've ever said that's ever hurt anyone's feelings in those past episodes, genuinely. And I feel the same. I felt that deeply. Sometimes, I mean, I'm sure I didn't, but sometimes I just get worried, like, oh, like having that much content out there, especially older content, can feel weird. Yes, we do. Oh, I'm going through Law and Order withdrawal, and your videos help. Oh, good. Arati says we do like it. Awesome. Can't catch your lies often here in London. Oh, yep, that makes sense. I don't know if this like weird color is working for me. Maybe I'll do a darker one and see how that feels. I'm going to do flowers on top. This is a geranium pattern, but I want to get these like a little hairy. Yeah, I think that's going to be better. A little hairy stems painted. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you guys enjoy the past ones. And this painting is going to be in a show here in San Francisco for Spoke Art, which is a gallery here, which I'm excited about. They're awesome. And the show is called Tondo. So it's all paintings, round paintings. And I was battling for a while. Do I like cut out round paper? Do I paint on a panel? A lot of ideas floating around. Decided to do this. Oh, thanks, Sonia. I hope I'm funny. Sometimes I think I'm funny, and that can be problematic. I laugh a lot at my own jokes. Oh, I'm into this. I like the dark specks. Oh yeah. Thanks for being here, Sonia. Happy to have you in my creative space. I feel like I've realized the reason I like doing this is that when I was, in my early 20s and trying to figure out what to do. I studied photography, which was wonderful. And I am so grateful because I feel like I see light and forms in such a different way since focusing on that for such a extended period of time in college and after. But I just didn't, this wasn't quite a thing yet where you could see creative people creating things or like artists being artists in different ways. Not to say that I didn't like get to experience professors talking about their experience and stuff like that, but it just felt very, sometimes it's hard to see yourself in those spaces. So that's a large reason why I like doing this, is making sure that other people can maybe figure out what they want to do or don't want to do, right? Maybe you watch this and you're like, "Oh, not for me." That's okay. Ooh. I have like a space heater on and a giant jacket on. It's ridiculous. So dramatic. I watched Air Force One last night with Harrison Ford. I'm really loving watching old action movies that I maybe have forgotten about or haven't watched in a long time. I've also been watching a lot of like old Liam Neeson movies. Really great. A great background vibe. Although, some of them you have to really be paying attention. And like storytelling is the same, but also old action movies like that, like the action sequences are so funny. Like in Air Force One, though, the part where the plane, like where Air Force One falls into the ocean, that's like pretty. I felt like that was like pretty advanced. I would think that the animation for that was like wild, but Ivan says, I never thought about that, but you're right. The only time I saw a professional working in real time was a college internship. Exactly, Ivan. I feel the same way. I did a bunch of internships outside of college, like right after graduating, and I feel like that was the most informative. But I also feel like it's definitely not something that everyone can do. If you have like financial obligations or, have to work, like I didn't get paid a ton of money at those internships. I luckily was able to like work in restaurants and do an internship or whatever. I had like the ability to do that, but yeah. Outside of Bob Ross, I wasn't really seeing that outside of my internships and Bob. I also just love the we talked about it earlier, the free resource sharing. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that I think is good to figure out on your own through experience, but also it's nice to be able to be like, oh, like if I want to work with gouache, this is what I could do. This is one way. I might have to redo those. I don't know if I like that on top. But for now, it's great. All right. So I want to do this border. Maybe I'll just do the outline of this border and then we'll call it. But I'll do it in white. I'm going to do it in pink, actually. I'm going to do it in this pink. Yeah. Oh, that's going to look great. How much of your work is improv versus planned? It is opera rose already. It's opera rose with some white and Naples yellow in it to just like make it a little more opaque because it's typically pretty translucent. How much of my work is improv versus planned? Solid question. I feel like when I first started doing paintings, it's very planned. So I was doing a lot of large scale, hyper realistic paintings, which I still love seeing when people do that. My friend Felicita, who I went to college with, incredible painter, love seeing people work like that. But I just feel like it was really pulling on a certain part of my brain that I wanted to get better at, kind of challenging a little bit. So I started working very improvisationally, never drew anything out, never planned anything. And that was great for a while. And now I feel like I do a little bit of both. So I typically do a lot of sketching and a lot of drawing, and then, bring that to the paper. And sometimes, depending on if it's an illustration project or a project for myself, if it's an illustration project, a lot of times I have to just work directly from the sketch and be very exact about it. But when it's for myself, I can kind of freehand. I like to freehand things. I like to give myself room to have to make mistakes and problem solve, because a lot of the time for me, that space is where I come up with really fun ideas that surprise me, which is what I love about painting. So, it's a little of both. Hopefully, I'm really excited about this pink. The only pink in my gouache collection, though I do find it cracks a little in the palette sometimes. Yeah, totally. That pink and Holbein's like true pink, those crack a lot. But honey, I think honey will help you if that's something you want help with. Let's see. My chair is so squeaky. I don't know what's happening. I'm really feeling this pink, you guys. Let's see. Arati says, sorry, I've got to go eat dinner with my husband. Our takeaway arrived. Ooh, lovely to see you too, Arati. Have a great dinner. Bye, Arati. You have a great weekend. And I hope I'm saying your name right. If you want to message me and let me know how to say it. It's always hard when I'm just reading them, and I never want to be mispronouncing people's names. Yeah, I'm so into it. Oh. Do you generally keep your gouache in pans? I didn't used to, Amy. I used to do like I would just work with fresh gouache, but the problem was is I would always like it would always end up drying out on me and then it would get crumbly. And so Danielle Bennett, who's an incredible illustrator, posted about how she puts hers in pans. And so I tried it out and I'm into it. But you got to use honey. Let's see, in my opinion. Sonia says, I love the pink. Thanks, Sonia. How's the premix gouache palette going? It's pretty good. So you can see some of the colors like this pink and some of these ones which have like red in them. And this green, I probably didn't put a ton of honey in it, but if you put a good amount of honey in it, I think it's pretty great. It helps with rewetting. You can see that some of them have like a little bit of a sheen to them because they can, maybe I used a little too much honey, but when I use them on the paper, they're not shiny. They still have that like really nice matte quality. And I just really like, I'm kind of a freak. I like when things are like tidy because I am a mess. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't like to clean things up. I don't like to have to put things away or put things out when I'm working. So if everything can just be right here, I think that's also why I liked when I was a kid wearing school uniforms, because then I never had to think about anything. I could just put school uniform on and be ready to go. Radisax asks, do you use acrylic gouache as well? It depends on the project. I used acrylic gouache for those Hope card illustrations, but that's just because it felt a little bit easier to keep things true to color for that particular project. I prefer regular gouache just because I like the movability of it. I like the rewetting. I like being able to reuse it, but that I love when other people use acrylic gouache. I see other people use it and I'm like, well, shit, I should use it. But it just it doesn't work for me that well. Depending on the project, I'll use it, but it's not my favorite. Well, cool. That's pretty much it. We went a little long today, but whenever I do these like paint with me hangs, and I feel like every once in a while I'll probably do one depending on what I got going on for the week. So I will schedule them. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, then it'll alert you when I've got one scheduled. And yeah, I feel like the live sessions are so much easier for me to show up for than necessarily like editing a full video, even though I do like doing that and I'll probably keep doing it. It's just slow. I'm slow at it. But thanks for hanging out and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining Lunch Club. Thanks, Stacy. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.